The alarm sirens rang through the corridors of the Galactic Research Station Horizon. Red lights flashed on every wall. Scientists of 100 different species ran in every direction. Some screamed. Some prayed to gods that humans had never heard of. But one human remained calm. Dr. James Wright stood at his console, his fingers moving across the holographic display with practiced speed. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had not slept in 3 days. The coffee cup beside him had gone cold hours ago. None of that mattered now. "The star is collapsing faster than our models predicted," said Zix, his Valorian assistant. Zix was a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. 2 of those arms were shaking. "Dr. Wright, we need to evacuate. The supernova will destroy everything within 12 light years. There are 47 inhabited worlds in that radius." "I know," James said. He did not look up from his work. "How much time do we have?" 17 hours, maybe less. 17 hours to save nearly 200 billion lives. The math was impossible. Evacuation was impossible. The nearest safe zone was 30 light years away. Even with the fastest ships, only a small fraction of those people could escape. "We are not running," James said. Zix stared at him with wide purple eyes. "Doctor, with respect, there is nothing that can be done. No technology in the galaxy can stop a supernova. The physics are clear. When a massive star dies, it dies. We can only observe and record." "That is what everyone believes," James said. A small smile crossed his tired face. "But humans have a saying, impossible is just a word." The star in question was called Cathara Prime. It was a red supergiant, nearly 800 times larger than Earth's sun. For millions of years, it had burned bright and steady. The civilizations that grew up around its warmth had never known fear of the sky. Cathara Prime was their god, their mother, their eternal light. But 3 weeks ago the star had begun to change. Its core was fusing heavier and heavier elements. Silicon was turning into iron, and when a star's core becomes iron, the end comes fast. Iron does not fuse. Iron does not release energy. Iron is where stars go to die. The Galactic Council had sent their best scientists to observe the event. They wanted data. They wanted to understand. They did not expect to save anyone. Evacuation orders had been issued, but everyone knew the truth. Most of those people would not make it. James Wright had been studying stellar physics for 40 years. He had worked on Earth, on Mars, on the research stations around Jupiter. When humans first joined the galactic community, many species had looked down on them. Humans were young. Humans were primitive. Humans had only been in space for a few centuries. But what the other species failed to understand was that humans were desperate. Earth was small. Earth was fragile. Humans had grown up knowing that any moment their world could end. An asteroid, a plague, a nuclear war. Humans had faced extinction more times than any young species should have survived. That fear had made them creative. That fear had made them bold. That fear had made them refuse to accept the impossible. "Bring up the gravitational field generators," James ordered. "All of them, every station in the sector." Zix hesitated. "Those are designed for moving asteroids, small moons at most. You cannot affect a star with them." "Not one of them, no. But what if we link them, all of them, every generator in the sector? What if we create a synchronized gravitational wave?" The Valorian's 4 hands stopped shaking. His purple eyes grew thoughtful. "That has never been attempted. The calculations alone would take weeks." "Then we do them in hours." James opened a channel to every research station, mining platform and military vessel in the region. His voice echoed across 1,000 ships. "This is Dr. James Wright of Earth. I am requesting all available gravitational field generators. I need coordinates, power outputs, and remote access codes. We have less than 17 hours to attempt something that has never been done. We are going to stabilize a dying star." For a long moment, there was silence. Then the responses began to pour in. This is Mining Station Theta 7. We have 3 generators, sending coordinates now. Research Vessel Clarity responding. We have 2 generators and full remote access. Calorian Defense Fleet acknowledges. We have 47 generators across our patrol routes. How can we help? More and more voices joined. Within minutes, James had access to over 400 gravitational field generators. It was still not enough, but it was a start. "What is your plan?" Zix asked. His voice was steadier now. There was something in James's confidence that made others believe. James pulled up a holographic model of the star. The image showed the layers of fusion, the collapsing core, the iron death spreading through its heart. "The problem is not the iron," James explained. "The problem is the core collapse. When the core loses pressure, it falls inward. The outer layers follow. Everything crashes together and the rebound creates the explosion. That is the supernova." "Yes," Zix said. "This is basic stellar physics." "Basic physics says we cannot stop it, but we can slow it. We can change the timing. If we apply external gravitational pressure at precisely the right moments, we can control the collapse. We can make it happen slowly, over years instead of seconds." Zix's mouth fell open. "You want to turn a catastrophic explosion into a gradual process." "Exactly. We slow the core collapse enough that the energy release happens over time. Instead of a supernova, we get a long, slow decline. The star dies, but it dies quietly. The radiation stays within safe levels. The shock wave never forms." "This is madness," Zix whispered, but there was hope in his eyes. "This is brilliant madness." "Humanity specializes in brilliant madness," James said. "Now help me run the numbers. We have a star to save." The calculations were beyond anything James had ever attempted. He needed to know the exact mass distribution of the star. He needed to know the current rate of core collapse. He needed to know the position, power output, and timing precision of every gravitational generator in the network. Most importantly, he needed to do all of this in less than 17 hours. "We need more computing power," Zix said. His 4 hands danced across multiple consoles. "The station systems are already at maximum capacity." James nodded. He opened a new communication channel. "This is Dr. Wright. I need every ship in the sector to link their navigation computers to our network. We are building a distributed processing array." "Dr. Wright," came a gruff voice. "This is Admiral Korath of the Calorian Fleet. My ship's computers are military grade. I cannot simply hand over access to a foreign scientist." "Admiral, with respect, those military computers will be atoms in 17 hours unless we succeed. I need your help." There was a long pause. "Very well, linking now. Do not make me regret this, human." One by one, more ships joined. Research vessels, trading ships, even a few pirate vessels that had been lurking in the region. Everyone understood that survival required cooperation. Within 2 hours, James had a processing network of nearly 3,000 linked computers. It was still crude compared to what he needed, but it would have to do. "Beginning primary calculations," James announced. "Everyone, I need absolute silence on this channel. Any disruption could corrupt the entire process." The numbers flowed across his screen. Billions of data points, trillions of variables. James had trained his whole life for moments like this. His mind moved through the mathematics like a fish through water. He could see patterns that others missed. He could find solutions where others saw only problems. But even he was struggling now. The star was collapsing faster than expected. The iron core was growing by the minute. Every calculation he made was outdated before he finished it. "The collapse rate is increasing," Zix reported. His voice was tight with fear. "We have lost 2 hours from our original estimate. 15 hours remain." James did not respond. He was deep in the numbers now. His eyes moved back and forth across streams of data. His lips muttered equations that even his assistant could not follow. Somewhere in this chaos was the answer. Somewhere in these numbers was the key to saving 200 billion lives. He just had to find it. Hours passed. The research station grew quiet as most of the staff evacuated. Only a small team remained with James. Zix stayed, of course. He had worked with the human scientist for 5 years. He was not going to abandon him now. A Calorian engineer named Brath also stayed. She was young, barely out of training, but she had a gift for system integration. She kept the processing network running smoothly, fixing errors before they could spread. An elderly Vorn named Tukven brought them food and water. He said nothing, but his presence was a comfort. The Vorn were known for their calm in crisis. His steady hands and quiet eyes reminded everyone that panic was not useful. "I have something," James said suddenly. His voice cracked from hours of silence. "I think I have something." Zix rushed to his side. The holographic display showed a new model. The star was still collapsing, but now there were lines of gravitational force surrounding it. Pulses of energy, timed precisely, pushing against the falling mass. "You found the timing sequence?" Zix asked. "Partial. The outer layers respond well to gravitational interference. We can slow their collapse by nearly 60%. That alone buys us years of time." "But the core?" James's face fell. "The core is the problem. It is too dense, too compact. Our gravitational generators cannot reach it. The outer layers will fall slowly, but the core will still collapse in seconds. The explosion will still happen." Silence filled the room. Everyone understood what this meant. James's plan was good, brilliant even, but it was not enough. "There must be something else," Brath said. Her young voice was desperate. "Some other approach." James stared at the hologram. The iron core burned red in the center. That small ball of iron was death itself. It would fall inward, rebound, and blast the star apart. Nothing could stop it. Nothing from outside, at least. "What if we attacked from within?" James whispered. Zix tilted his head. "Explain." "The core collapses because it cannot support its own weight. Iron does not fuse. It produces no energy. The core literally falls because nothing pushes back." "Yes, this is known. But what if we gave it something to push with? What if we introduced new fuel into the core? Something that could fuse?" Zix's eyes widened. "You want to feed the star, keep it burning." "Just for a moment. Just long enough for the gravitational stabilization to take effect. If we can reignite fusion in the core, even briefly, it will push back against the collapse. Combined with external pressure from the generators, we might reach equilibrium." "And what fuel would you use?" Zix asked. "The core is thousands of degrees hotter than any ship could survive. No probe could reach it." James was silent for a moment. Then he looked up with a strange light in his eyes. "There is one ship that might survive," he said. "The mining vessel Helios. It was designed to harvest plasma from the outer layers of stars. Its hull can withstand temperatures that would vaporize anything else." "I know that ship," Brath said. "It belongs to the Keth Mining Corporation. They use it to collect rare elements from stellar plasma." "Call them," James ordered. "I need to speak with their captain." Minutes later, a face appeared on the communication screen. It was a human face. Weathered, scarred, with eyes that had seen things most people could not imagine. "This is Captain Sarah Cole of the Helios," the woman said. "I hear you need my ship for something crazy." James almost laughed. Of course the Helios had a human captain. Who else would take a job like this? "Captain Cole, I need you to dive into the heart of a dying star and deliver fusion fuel to its core." Sarah Cole smiled. It was not a normal smile. It was the smile of someone who had spent their life doing things that should not be possible. "Dr. Wright," she said, "I thought you would never ask." The Helios was a strange ship. It looked like a bullet made of gold, with a hull of layered ceramics and exotic alloys. Solar sails extended from its sides like wings, designed to ride the radiation pressure of stars. Most ships would melt within minutes of a stellar approach. The Helios had danced through the coronas of a dozen suns. Captain Sarah Cole stood on the bridge, watching the holographic display. Cathara Prime filled the screen, a swirling mass of red and orange. Even from this distance, the star's instability was visible. Massive flares erupted from its surface. Waves of plasma crashed against each other like oceans of fire. "The core temperature is rising," reported her navigator, a young man named Chen. "We have 12 hours until collapse." "Time enough," Sarah said. She turned to face her crew. There were 20 of them, humans and aliens alike. They had all known what they signed up for when they joined the Helios. They had all chosen to live on the edge of impossible. "I'm not going to lie to you," Sarah said. "This mission is dangerous, more dangerous than anything we have done before. Dr. Wright's calculations are theoretical. No one has ever tried to stabilize a supernova. We might succeed and save billions of lives. We might fail and die in the heart of a star." She paused, looking at each face in turn. "Anyone who wants to leave, I understand. There will be no shame, no consequences. But if you stay knowing what we face." No one moved, no one spoke. After a long moment, Chen smiled. "Captain, we did not join the Helios for safe work. Let us go save a star." Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "Then prepare for stellar approach. Load the fusion fuel into the delivery pods. We have a sun to heal." The fusion fuel was stored in specially designed containers. It was a mixture of hydrogen isotopes, compressed to incredible density. Under normal conditions, this fuel would power starships for decades. Under the conditions they would face, it would ignite instantly, releasing energy equivalent to a small nuclear bomb. That was exactly what they needed. A bomb at the heart of the star, reigniting fusion where it had died. Back on the research station, James Wright watched the Helios begin its approach. His hands shook slightly as he monitored the data streams. So many things could go wrong. The timing had to be perfect. The fuel had to reach the core at exactly the right moment. The gravitational generators had to fire in precise synchronization. "Generator network is ready," Zix reported. 437 units, all linked and calibrated. "Good. Begin positioning for Phase 1. Across the sector, hundreds of ships and stations began to move. They formed a vast sphere around the dying star, each unit precisely positioned according to James's calculations. It was the largest coordinated operation in galactic history. Military vessels, civilian ships, mining platforms, research stations, all working together. The Galactic Council had initially opposed the plan. They called it reckless. They called it theoretical nonsense. But when they realized that evacuation was impossible, they had no choice but to support the only option left. "Helios is entering the stellar atmosphere," Chen announced. His voice was calm, but his eyes were fixed on the temperature readings. "Outer hull at 15,000 degrees and rising." Sarah gripped the arms of her command chair. The ship shuddered as it pushed deeper into the star. Through the reinforced viewport, everything was fire. Red and orange and white, flames that made the fires of Earth look like candles. "Hull holding," reported the engineer, a burly woman named Yuki. "Coolant systems at maximum. We can go deeper." "Then deeper we go," Sarah said, all ahead full. The Helios dove into the star like a golden arrow. Plasma currents tore at its hull. Magnetic storms threatened to spin it out of control. But the ship held steady, its engines fighting against forces that would crush most vessels. On the research station, James watched the Helios's progress with growing anxiety. The ship was performing better than expected, but the core was still far away. They needed to go deeper than any ship had ever gone. Collapse rate is accelerating, Zix said. The core is destabilizing faster than predicted. We have lost another hour. Captain Cole, James transmitted. You need to increase speed. We are running out of time. Sarah's voice came back, slightly distorted by the stellar interference. Doctor, we are already pushing the engines past their limits. If I go any faster, we will burn out before we reach the core. James closed his eyes. He ran the numbers again in his head. There had to be another way. There had to be something he was missing. Then it hit him. Captain, I am adjusting the gravitational network. I am going to create a current in the stellar plasma. It will carry you toward the core faster than your engines can manage. You can do that? Sarah asked, surprised. Theoretically, I'm about to find out if theory matches reality. James began reconfiguring the gravitational generators. Instead of pressing inward on the star, he angled them to create a spiral pattern. The plasma would flow like water in a drain, pulling everything toward the center, including the Helios. All generators initiate modified pattern on my mark, James announced. His voice was steady, though his heart was pounding. 3, 2, 1 mark. 437 gravitational generators fired simultaneously. The effect was immediate. Deep within the star, the plasma began to move. Currents formed, faster and faster, spiraling toward the core. The Helios was caught in the current. The ship accelerated beyond what its engines could manage, riding the plasma flow like a leaf in a river. We are going too fast, Chen shouted. We cannot control our trajectory. Then do not try to control it, Sarah said. Let the star guide us, just keep the ship together. The Helios screamed through the stellar plasma. Its hull glowed white with heat. Systems began to fail one by one, but the ship held. The golden bullet held. Core approach in 3 minutes, Yuki reported. Her voice was tight with fear and excitement. Fusion fuel pods ready for deployment. Sarah nodded. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. Either they saved billions of lives or they died trying. Either way, she thought, it was a good day to be human. The heart of a dying star was not something any living creature was meant to see. The temperatures exceeded 100 million degrees. The pressure was unimaginable. Matter itself behaved differently here, crushed into states that defied normal physics. And yet the Helios survived. Its hull was blackened, its systems failing, but it survived. Core approach in 30 seconds, Chen announced. His voice was hoarse from the heat and stress. Fuel pods armed and ready. Sarah Cole stared at the screens. The iron core was visible now, a dark mass at the center of the inferno. It was falling, collapsing inward, building toward the moment when it would rebound and tear the star apart. Dr. Wright, she transmitted, we are in position, awaiting your signal. Back on the research station, James Wright watched the countdown with trembling hands. Everything depended on the next few seconds. The fuel had to ignite at exactly the right moment. The gravitational generators had to fire in perfect synchronization. If anything was off by even a fraction of a second, the plan would fail. Core collapse in 20 seconds, Zix reported. The destabilization is reaching critical. James took a deep breath. 40 years of study, 40 years of work. It all came down to this. Captain Cole, deploy the fuel. All generators prepare for maximum output on my mark. On the Helios, Sarah slammed her hand on the deployment controls. Fuel away. The fusion fuel pods shot from the Helios like golden bullets. They plunged into the iron core, disappearing into the dark mass at the heart of the star. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the core exploded with light. Fusion reignited. The hydrogen fuel met the extreme conditions and began to fuse, releasing enormous energy. The core, which had been falling inward, suddenly met resistance. For the first time in hours, something pushed back against the collapse. Now, James shouted, all generators fire now. 437 gravitational generators unleashed their full power. Across the sector, beams of gravitational force converged on the dying star. They pressed inward from every direction, supporting the outer layers, slowing the collapse. Inside the star, two forces met. The fusion energy pushed outward. The gravitational pressure held the outer layers in place. The core, caught between these forces, stopped falling. Core collapse halted, Zix whispered. His purple eyes were wide with disbelief. The core has stopped collapsing. Is it stable? James asked. Checking, analyzing. Zix's four hands flew across the controls. Yes, the readings show equilibrium. The fusion is sustained. The gravitational support is holding. The star is not going to explode. James let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. His legs gave way and he collapsed into his chair. Around him, the remaining crew erupted in cheers. Brath was crying. Tuck Ven was nodding slowly, a rare smile on his ancient face. Captain Cole, James transmitted, the plan worked. Cathara Prime is stabilized. How is your crew? There was a long pause. Then Sarah's voice came through, weak but triumphant. We are alive, Doctor. Barely. The Helios is in bad shape, but we are riding the stellar current back out. Should reach safe distance in about 4 hours. You are heroes, James said. All of you. Sarah laughed. It was a tired laugh, exhausted and relieved. We are humans, Doctor. This is just what we do. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. A human scientist had done the impossible. A human ship had dived into the heart of a dying star and lived. Together, they had saved 47 worlds and nearly 200 billion lives. The Galactic Council was stunned. For centuries, they had considered supernovae to be forces of nature, unstoppable and inevitable. The idea that any species could prevent one was simply not part of their understanding of the universe. But humans had done it. Humans, with their young civilization and primitive technology and desperate creativity. Humans who refused to accept the impossible. How? Admiral Korath demanded during the emergency council session. How did they even conceive of such a plan? Our best scientists said it was impossible. The Vorn representative, an elderly being with kind eyes, spoke up. Perhaps that is the answer. Your scientists knew it was impossible, so they did not try. The human did not know it was impossible, so he found a way. That is not how science works, Korath argued. Perhaps not, the Vorn agreed. But it is how humans work. They do not accept limits. They do not accept defeat. They push and struggle and fight until they find a solution, no matter how unlikely. The council fell silent. They were all thinking the same thing. Humanity had been in the galactic community for only 3 centuries. In that time, they had risen from primitives to equals. And now, they had done something that no other species had ever accomplished. On the planets around Cathara Prime, celebrations erupted. Beings of a dozen species danced in the streets. They lit fires and played music and thanked whatever gods they believed in. They were alive. Their worlds were safe. The star that had given them life was no longer a threat. And in the center of every celebration, in every song and prayer and shout of joy, one word was repeated. Human. The humans had saved them. The humans, those strange, small, stubborn creatures from a tiny blue world. They had looked at death and refused to accept it. They had reached into the heart of a star and told it that it was not allowed to kill. And the star had listened. 6 months passed. Cathara Prime burned steady and calm, its light a gentle reminder of what had almost been lost. The gravitational network remained in place, a permanent support structure that would keep the star stable for centuries to come. Dr. James Wright stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt research station Horizon. He was older now, the stress of those 17 hours having aged him in ways that rest could not heal. But his eyes were bright, and his mind was still sharp. Beside him stood Zix, his faithful assistant. The Valorian had been promoted to full researcher status, his work on the stabilization project earning him recognition across the galaxy. His 4 arms were folded peacefully as he watched the star. "There is a delegation arriving today," Zix said. "Representatives from all 47 saved worlds. They wish to thank you personally." James shook his head. "It was not just me. Captain Cole and her crew risked everything. The ships that provided generators, the council that approved the plan, everyone who helped. And yet you were the one who found the solution. You were the one who refused to give up." James smiled tiredly. "That is what humans do. We are too stubborn to know when something is impossible." The delegation arrived that afternoon. There were representatives from species James had never met, tall beings and short ones, scaled creatures and feathered ones, beings of light and beings of shadow. They came from worlds of ice and worlds of fire, worlds of water and worlds of stone. And they all came with the same message. "Thank you." One by one they approached James. Some bowed, some offered gifts, some simply stood in silence, their gratitude too deep for words. A Calorian child, no more than 5 cycles old, approached James with wide eyes. She held out a small flower, carefully grown in the artificial gardens of her homeworld. "My mother says you saved us," the child said. "She says you stopped the star from eating us." James knelt down to look the child in the eyes. "The star was not going to eat you," he said gently. "It was just sick. We helped it get better." The child's eyes widened further. "You can make stars better." "Sometimes," James said. "With enough help and enough hope, you can fix almost anything." That evening there was a celebration on the station. Music played, food was shared, stories were told. For one night the divisions between species melted away. They were all simply people who had survived something terrible together. Captain Sarah Cole arrived late, her arms still in a regeneration cast from the injuries she had suffered. Her crew followed behind her, all of them marked in some way by their ordeal. But they were smiling. They were alive. "Dr. Wright," Sarah said, raising a glass, "I believe I owe you a drink." James raised his own glass. "Captain Cole, you owe me nothing. What you did was beyond heroic." "Heroic?" Sarah laughed. "I flew a ship into a star because a scientist told me it might work. Either I am a hero or I am the biggest fool in the galaxy." "Perhaps both," James suggested. Sarah clinked her glass against his. "Perhaps both," she agreed. "That is the human way, is it not? Too foolish to know when something is impossible, too heroic to stop trying." They drank together as the stars wheeled overhead. Cathara Prime glowed peacefully in the distance, its light steady and calm. Around them the galaxy continued its endless dance. Stars were born, stars died, civilizations rose and fell. But on this night in this place, something new had entered the universe. A new understanding, a new possibility. The Galactic Council met the following week. The atmosphere was different than it had been before. There was a new respect in how other species looked at the human representatives, a new curiosity. "Humanity has demonstrated capabilities beyond what we thought possible," the Vorn elder said. "We must reconsider their place in the galactic order." Admiral Korath, who had once been skeptical of humans, now spoke in their defense. "They did what no other species could do. They saved 47 worlds. That deserves recognition." The Council voted unanimously. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Science Coalition. Human scientists would be welcomed into the most advanced research programs. Human technology, once dismissed as primitive, would be studied and integrated. But more importantly, something changed in how other species thought about humans. They were no longer seen as primitive newcomers. They were seen as problem solvers, miracle workers, the species you called when the impossible needed to become possible. James Wright returned to Earth 6 months later. He was greeted as a hero, but he did not feel like one. He was just a scientist who had done his job. He had seen a problem and found a solution. That was what scientists did. He retired to a small house by the ocean, where he spent his days watching the waves and thinking about stars. Sometimes, late at night, he would look up at the sky and wonder about the civilizations out there. The children who would grow up never knowing how close they had come to death. The parents who would watch their children play, never knowing that a human scientist had given them that future. Zix visited him sometimes. The Valorian had become a famous researcher in his own right, continuing the work they had started together. But he always made time for his old friend. "The universe is very large," Zix said one evening as they watched the sunset. "There are millions of stars out there. Some of them are dying right now. Some of them will explode." "I know," James said. "Do you think we can save them all?" James thought about it for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "We cannot save them all. The universe is too big and we are too small. Stars will die. Civilizations will fall. That is the nature of things." "Then what was the point?" Zix asked. James smiled. It was a tired smile, but a peaceful one. "The point is that we try," he said. "We cannot save everyone. We cannot fix everything. But we can try. We can refuse to accept the impossible. We can fight against the darkness, even when we know we cannot win." He looked up at the emerging stars, his eyes reflecting their ancient light. "That is what it means to be human, my friend. We do not win because we are strong. We win because we refuse to give up. We win because we look at the impossible and say, 'Not today.' We win because when the universe tells us no, we ask, 'Are you sure?'" Zix was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Humanity is a strange species," he said. "Yes," James agreed. "Yes, we are, but I think perhaps the universe is lucky to have us." Above them the stars continued to shine. Some were dying, some were being born, and somewhere out there, around a red star that should have exploded, billions of beings lived their lives in peace. They told stories about the human who had saved them. They taught their children that no problem was too big, no challenge too great. They learned to say the words that humans had always known. Impossible is just a word. And words can be changed.